Hello, and welcome to the final chapter in InnoBuzz's online marketing course. This is Chapter 9, Content Marketing. Let's get started. As always, we'll start with an introduction. We're going to cover the strategy of content marketing. We're going to talk about how to monetize it, how to promote it, because there's all kinds of advice all across the internet of how to publicize your content. And a lot of it kind of sucks, but a lot of it's awesome. And we're going to cover what actually works. We're going to look at some tips, tricks, and tools. And finally, we're going to look at kind of the holy grail of content marketing sites, which is copyblogger.com. So, content marketing. It's the use of frequent updates, typically of the written word, delivered to your target market via the web. Now, content can also involve video, images, and multiple other multimedia mediums. But we're not really going to be focusing on too much of that stuff. Certainly you could say that creating a YouTube page and putting videos up would be content marketing. And while people do choose to do that all the time, it's much more rare and much less common than writing. And so when we're looking at things like blogs and news sites, those are the two most common forms of content marketing. So this chapter is going to be tailored specifically towards those kind of websites. However, a lot of the things in it can be applied to, say, an image blog or a YouTube video channel. Now, one of the things that differentiates content, and something that a lot of traditional publishers have really struggled to keep up with, is the whole idea of content being delivered for free. Because keep in mind, it wasn't so long ago that if you wanted a newspaper, you had to pay for your subscription. If you wanted any kind of anything at all that you would enjoy, be it books, video games, news, as I just said, you had to pay for it. And with content marketing strategies, predominantly it's all about giving away the content for free, which is an interesting change. And what ends up happening is a lot of companies look at this as a loss leader, which in my opinion, and in the opinion of many other marketers, is a terrible way of looking at it. Yes, creating a blog and writing high quality articles or doing investigative journalism, that's expensive. It is a cost. But in business, we don't really incur costs without benefits. And so all I'm saying is that maybe we should change our mind. Rather than thinking of it as a loss leader, maybe we should think of it as, say, list development. What? Why would I say that? It's because content marketing is really just a subset of direct marketing, believe it or not. So direct marketing, just in case you're not aware, you get junk mail in the mail, I'm sure. And some of it is going to be addressed to you, and some of it is just going to be flyers randomly strewn into your mailbox. No big deal. The one that has your name on it, that's direct marketing. That means that that piece of mail has been sent specifically to you by a company because they have information about you on a database somewhere that says that you would probably be interested in this offer. Of course, only a very small amount of people will actually end up purchasing it, but they're trying to increase their conversion rates. That's the idea. Okay? Now, one of the big tenets in direct marketing is the list. The list is the king. The higher the quality of the list, the more sales you will make. And that's just common sense. If you're trying to sell expensive china pieces to, say, guys who are in their 20s, good luck. Your list is no good. It's garbage, and you're not going to sell really any, except for guys who maybe get some for their mother as a gift. But it's kind of like taking the shotgun approach of let's just cross our fingers and pray that this works out. It would be far better to have a list of older women who had purchased china previously in the past. And then all of a sudden your list is worth much, much, much more. And that's the whole idea. So this is kind of a good preamble because content marketing is a subset of direct marketing. Why do I say that? And why is the power in the list, and even how do you get this list? With direct marketing, you would traditionally buy them or build them up yourself over time through your own testing and experimentation. In content marketing with the web, well, we don't have to do that. Here's the cool thing. A person who regularly reads digital camera blogs probably likes digital cameras. People who regularly read business sites probably are in business. And people who like technology articles probably like technology. And that's just it. You have determined how a person in their free time, what they do. So your list automatically becomes, this person likes China. This person likes digital cameras. And because of that, you can really hone in. Now, it's not a perfect list, of course, but it's pretty darn good. This person likes digital cameras enough that they're here to spend their time reading up on digital cameras in their free time. It's pretty safe to say that list is going to be very good. And as a marketer, you can use this for financial gain. That's great. Now, with that in mind, one thing that is important with content is this nice little corollary, which is your content should be about one specific topic then. For instance, every now and then I come across blogs online, and it's got a person talking about their life, and then, say, digital cameras, and then gardening. And I look at it, I'm like, not a lot of people are really interested in that person's particular life, digital cameras and gardening, and not all in one place. It's not good branding. It's not good business. That's not how we do it. We would never make a store that sold philosophy books plus digital cameras plus gardening tools and plants. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't survive in the market. It's too confusing of an offering. And you should take those basic marketing and basic business tenets and apply them here again in the digital realm. So that's really critical. And right now, your mind should probably be firing off a little bit, because if we're just writing about one thing, and the whole idea is to get this list and get it to be as good as we can, well then, what's the secret? The key to content marketing is to have as many high-quality, regular readers as possible. The amount of people who come back to your website over and over again because they're interested in what you have to say, they trust your website, you're authoritative and informative, and you add value. And those are not just buzzwords I'm spouting off. Those are really, really important things. Go back and listen to that again if you have to. That is absolutely the key and the trick to content marketing. Without that, you basically are going to have nothing. Okay, so companies will want to start content marketing in order to gain SEO benefits. I told you about that one client, the client that was, I did in previous chapters. I was mentioning an individual or a company who had created a blog for their moving company, and as a result, their traffic had doubled. Hey, great. There's two in one, because they had SEO benefits from it, which brought in even more traffic. Having a blog will develop and strengthen your brand, especially if you're new and unheard of, or using a content marketing strategy, I guess, to be technical here, but really you could just use blog interchangeably. And the nice thing about content marketing is it brings in additional revenue streams, and it really does make a pretty big difference in the end. Business owners who are smart about their content marketing really can earn a good amount of money. The key to it, though, is it's hard to start, and it does require a good amount of dedication over a long period of time. One of the examples we're going to talk about at the very end, and I'm going to mention this later again, Copyblogger, which is one of the best blogs on the entire internet. That's not my subjective opinion. That's many people's more objective one. The first 3 months that they wrote, they basically had no traffic at all. They were not popular. They basically existed in a tiny little bubble of nobody knowing about them. And that's one of the best blogs on the internet. And it's interesting because their initial content was amazing. It's probably better than the currently amazing content that they have every day on their website. It's a tough go getting started. So when you're looking at investment costs and calculating your ROI, you have to be aware it's a long-term strategy. It's going to take you a year or 2 years before you're really going to start to see results, unless you do something absolutely amazing. Now, when it comes to getting your content up, and when it comes to writing it, there are a few things that you're really going to want to keep in mind. One, you have to update frequently. This will get you more SEO power, just because you have more articles getting linked, and then as a result, because you have more articles, you get more links and more traffic, which gives you more SEO, which is all very cyclical. Exactly what you want. Now, generally it's regarded that early morning updates are best. When it comes to pushing content out across the web, you have a 24 cycle. But a lot of people have found that the mornings are the best time. Seth Godin, who's a very, very popular blogger, he sends our updates out each morning at 6:30 a.m. EST. And personally, I have found a good degree of success with this time as well. What 6:30 a.m. EST means is that people in New York wake up, and when they wake up, they pretty much have their email there waiting for them. And then as everyone else across the world going backwards, so across North America and whatnot, they too will have that delivered as they wake up. Now, Seth Godin writes for a global audience. He's based in New York, so the fact that he publishes at 6:30 EST makes sense for him. I personally am based out of Vancouver, so it makes sense for clients that I work with that they publish their blogs if they're in North America, again, so that people are there when they wake up. But if you're in Europe or Asia, you will probably want to change that. Don't look at this as, okay, 6:30 a.m. EST is the time. No, the key is to have it when your target market wakes up. If you have a global audience, well, tried and true strategy is, of course, using the EST time zone. But if you write specifically for Japan or Korea, you will probably want to change that time zone to a more appropriate one. Sending updates out in the afternoon, it really just doesn't work out as well. And it gets you less attention overall. Keep in mind, and if you're wondering, okay, well, why is this? It's because generally business people, and I think most people, to be honest with you, actually no, not think, most people do, they get up, they get some breakfast, they do some things, and they check their email. Or they check their RSS feeds. We'll talk about RSS feeds in a little bit. Or they go to their favorite sites and look for updates. It's something that people do in the morning, right, when they get into work. And so having your content there available is actually really important. So that's the key. The most important thing to remember when creating your content is value. And I cannot overstate that. If you write a blog or an article and what you write sucks, then all the work you do promoting to get people to your site, they're not going to come back. And in your initial days, you're going to have to fight for every view that you get. And if none of those people ever come back, then it's really, really hard to grow. You really cannot just jot down some trite material, hit F7 in Microsoft Word for an automatic spell check, and then go click publish. That's not good enough. Your content has to be longer. It has to be richer. About 500 to 750 words is usually good. Not that there's any specific guideline. There's amazing things that get written that are much longer than that. And then there's great posts published by, say, Seth Godin, which are much shorter than that. It's just that if you're going for a solid content-based, here is everything you need to know about this specific digital camera, 50 words isn't going to cut it. It's probably going to be 500 to 750. You want to make sure that what you write is easy to read for a person. Some people will tell you to write for search engines, and we talked about this in the SEO chapter of this course. Don't do that. You need to write for people. That's critical. People, after all, are the ones who actually come and click on ads and buy your products that you sell. And if they don't like you, or if you seem shady or under the table or not right, it's like those spam messages you get, right? The grammar is terrible. And you can't help but wonder, well, maybe if they'd write them properly, they would be way more effective. That's the key. Provide value and do a great job of your content. There's a saying in content marketing called content is king. And people try to debate this and try to show that one thing is more important. Like, you can have the greatest content in the world, but if you don't have any promotion strategy, then the content's not the king, obviously. The promotion, like, you can make these arguments, but they're pointless. The truth of the matter is, having good content is a building block. And regardless of what other people, try to push off as being a little more important or a little less important, it doesn't matter. You have to have solid, high-quality material for people to look at. Let's talk a little bit about strategy here. One of the biggest ways to get your blog or content-based site successful is through SEO and through people sharing. Okay, so either way, and we're going to talk about the SEO bit a little bit later. Right now we're going to talk about the sharing. Titles are important. And for people, they should involve a hook of some kind. Now, why is this? Well, if I were to just go across Google News, news.google.com right now, and I pulled it up, and we looked at, say, you know how it does that similar search thing where you can just, I type in, say, Syria, and it would bring up all these different articles on Syria. Okay, I could click similar search, and they're all going to look relatively the same. But I guarantee you, the one that's the most interesting that I see first, that's the one that I'm going to click on. Because that good title with a solid hook, that makes a big difference. And people have been looking into this, and it turns out that, yeah, if you write something amazing that's catchy, that works, then you get a lot more people coming. So I provided an example down here at the bottom of the screen. In, like, the first letter is capitalized and the rest of it looks like a sentence, make more money online. If that was a link to, say, a blog, it looks, it doesn't really make sense. There's no authority. There's no hook. It's just make more money online, and it looks plain and bland. The next one is that 7 proven ways to make more money online. And despite the fact that I put a little bit of different intonation onto it, you can really see that, well, there's authority. There's a bit of a hook in that, because that, you know, we all want to make more money, so that makes sense. And 7 proven ways, that has been shown to really work very well using a number like that. It's kind of like the book, The 48 Laws of Power, or all across the web, you will find all these different articles of the 8 different ways of this, or the 6 different ways of that. That works. It's a little bit hook in our mind, because we think, well, why are there only 48 laws of power? Why aren't there 49? Why aren't there 50? It adds even more authority to it. So that's the difference between a good title and a very poor title. Trust, authority, working with what we as marketers know people like, or what works, versus something that's just bland, generic, and makes no sense at all. Contrasting the way people look at it is like I was talking about SEO. Most of your SEO power is going to come from the keywords in the title and the H2 tags. Okay? Now, if you don't know what header tags are, basically what you do is, it's a shortcut in WordPress, and it's very good to do this in your own sites, and these should be set up, so talk to your web developer if they're not. But if you go in, and if you're in WordPress and you go to the HTML tab, or if you're in just writing code straight up to put into your blog, maybe you're kind of working on an older non-CMS style. Basically, if you have a title, you would traditionally wrap that in H1 tags. So you would go less than symbol, H1, close that symbol, and then write your title, and then you would write the exact same less than H1 close, except you would put a backslash before the H1. And this tells search engines, it does 2 things. First of all, in your design, it makes it big, bold, and powerful if your CSS has been set up correctly. In search engines, it tells them this is incredibly important. So H1 and H2 are the most important, and it goes H3 through H7. Using H3 is somewhat common, but H1 and H2 should be used all of the time. And if you're thinking, well, I'm just writing an article, so I only need an H1 tag, well, here's a cool thought for you. What you can do is break your article up into different pieces. So you can have the title in H1 and then 150 words, and then you can have a subtitle of some kind, or just some kind of catchy text in H2 tag. So it's bigger, bold, it draws people's eye. That's good copywriting. That's a trick that copywriters use all the time, just to get people to continue reading and spark their attention, and also helps people skim articles. So if they come to the site, they don't have to read this giant wall of text. They get it nicely broken down. The trick there, put keywords there. And if you're wondering, okay, well, which keywords do I need to use? You should go back and review this course, because we talked about this. The Google Keyword Tool will help you determine the best keywords to use. And should you use it? It takes an extra 2 minutes to go through and determine a better keyword to use. But as I did show you previously in the course, yes, it is extremely important. It makes a big difference. If the keyword you think is going to be good has like 30 searches a month, And then there's another one very similar to it that has literally tens of thousands. You need to know that, and you need to use the one that's going to get more searches, that gives you more power in the search engines. That's critical. And then keep in mind, just think back to our SEO chapter. Do not stuff your content with too many keywords. You are writing for people, not for search engines. Okay, monetization is tricky because keep in mind, you're giving away your content for free. And in exchange, you are building up a readership, a list, if you will. So while we're building this list, before we really dive into monetization, we need to think about two different things, three different things. One, we need to think about getting people back to the site. To just go to their browser and type in www.yoursite.com. Okay, so that would suggest that when it comes to naming your site, you would want it to be relatively simple. Would be best. When people are coming back, there is a technology called RSS feeds, which stands for Really Simple Syndication. And despite that mouthful of jargon, RSS feeds just make it simple for people to grab their media through the sites that they work or the sites that they like really, really easily. Using a piece of software like Google Reader, it allows them to amalgamate generally a little bit of text, maybe all of it, and certainly the titles from their favorite blogs in one place. A lot of people use RSS feeds, and you should too. They're very easy to set up. You can ask your webmaster if you don't know. If you want to do some quick research yourself, FeedBurner is a great company to look into. It's owned by Google. They bought it out a while back, and it just makes it incredibly easy, especially if you're using WordPress. Social media, we're going to talk about this in a little bit more later, but social media also works for getting people back to your website. Especially Twitter is great for just being like, hey guys, we have a new post. Check it out. And finally, the last thing when it comes to the list is literally building a list. One thing that you should certainly put on your content site is an email opt-in form. And the purpose of this email opt-in form is to get people, these are people who like your site enough that they subscribe to all updates from you is the idea. So they would get content updates as well as updates on related products or offers that you or your affiliates are providing. And it's just a way of making a little bit more money a little bit easier. So let's go back. Let's go through the monetization strategies that we can do. The most common one for new websites is to use AdSense and place it on the website. You are not going to make much money at all because you will not have much traffic, but you will make a little bit, and you will get your readers used to there being ads on your website. Okay? Now, sometimes you don't want to use ads at all, and that's totally acceptable. I personally, I'm in the process of putting together a consulting company at the moment. And one of the things that I'm going to have for sure is a content marketing strategy. But I will not have any AdSense ads for other providers or anything like that on the website. It doesn't make sense for me. And the strategy is not, when it comes to monetization, my strategy is not getting people to click on ads to leave my site. The idea will be for them to stay there as much as possible. And now that may be the truth for you. However, it may not, and you're going to have to come up with that decision yourself. How do you make that decision? Do I want to put AdSense ads and send people away? Maybe. Let's look at some examples here. Just off the top of my head, what are some ones we've used in this class here? Digital cameras. All right, yes, a digital camera blog would want to have ads on it. That's because you just write content. You need monetization of some kind, right? And you don't have a store, you don't sell digital cameras. There's no point in keeping people on your website. So to send them somewhere else to see offers relevant to them, that makes sense. Technology blog. Sure, why not? We know that the readers there like technology, that they're a big fan of it. But again, unless you have a store, putting ads on there is good. Now, say that you do have a store. Then I would probably resist putting ads to anything except your store. Right? And that's just smart conversion strategies. So, at any rate, Most of the time, you're going to create a new site. You'll probably create it in WordPress just because it's incredibly simple to get a blog up and running in it. And then just throw on some ads from AdSense. Makes it nice and easy. You might make a few bucks in your first few months. Won't be very much at all. But at least you have a little revenue coming in. Now, we'll fast forward a little bit. You're a little more successful. You've broken ground. You're getting maybe, say, 10,000 unique visitors per month, just to say. At this point, your site would be deemed, somewhat successful. You're certainly not a small little fish anymore. So you can begin looking into doing other things like affiliating with other people or doing direct selling of ads. Although maybe 10,000 is a little bit short for direct selling. Typically, it's better to do that once you get a little bit more traffic coming in. So what are these two things? Affiliate selling is basically you would be advertising someone else's product. And when one of your readers comes to your website, clicks through to their website, and buys it, you would get a cut. That's called, in advertising, we call that kind of interaction CPA. Affiliate marketing can work really, really well, especially if it's something relevant. So since we've been sticking with the digital camera theme, you could do a review on a new Nikon camera. And it turns out that this honest review, it's an amazing camera. It's one of the best small cameras you've ever seen yourself. So at the very bottom of it, you put an affiliate link to Amazon.com where people can directly buy this camera. That makes sense. It's a great camera. You like it. You know that these people are going to be there looking for it. Hey, here's the buy link. Makes sense. If you're sticking with the advertising solution, one of the things that you can do is move away from Google AdSense. And the reason being, Google AdSense is an amazing service. They do a great job and they serve very relevant ads. However, they take a cut. So whenever you make money, they also make money. I think the last statistics they published were you keep 70%, they keep 30%. So what a lot of companies do once they get more established, and you do need to be bigger, is they look into alternative services and then later direct selling ads. So they would create an ad team, or they themselves as the owner would call up different companies, just like newspapers do, and say, hey, this is us, this is how much traffic we have, this is what we're about, how would you like to advertise on your website? So in the case of that digital camera company, since they had that new Nikon camera coming out, you could actually call Nikon's ad sales department and say, hey, look, this is where I am. I'm going to review your product in a couple of weeks. I think it's going to be very good. Would you like to place ads on my website in the meantime? Done. If we go back a few years, these strategies were very rare. About a decade ago, it was just monetizing blogs. That didn't make sense at all. And then it was putting advertisements on blogs. That makes sense, but you would never want to sell anything to your blogs. And now when we're looking at a lot of the most popular ones, they all sell something to their list of some kind. And popular was the wrong word to use. Most successful. They sell something. Maybe it's a course. Maybe it's their own products. Maybe they've set up their own e-commerce store. But the truth is, they're selling something. And that's just because ads work. AdSense is a great system. But the conversion just isn't high. I mean, when you think about it, if you're getting 1,000 people to your website, and you're earning, say, $1 on average per 1,000 visitors, well, let's just think of some simple conversion rates. If 1,000 people come to your website, and 1% or 0.5% of them buy something from an affiliate or buy one of your products, and your margin is $10, well, you've just earned a lot more than $1. And that's why people have been kind of moving away from AdSense and away from advertising and onto other much more profitable solutions. That's basically all there is to it. When you first start, though, you have very little power, and you don't have the conversion or the traffic to optimize your conversion in order to really make affiliates or direct selling ads, or even creating your own products, because you don't have any cash flow. Unless you've got a lot of investment, but then maybe you're rushing a little bit because you're spending this time developing product before knowing if your site is successful. The first thing you have to do is work on building that traffic. Once you have that, you can work on further monetization strategies. When it comes to social media, there's always this question, should I use social media, should I not? Nowadays, it's probably yes, as I discussed in the social media chapter of the course. If your target market has a profitable, powerful social media presence, then yeah, you should use social media. Taking the time to build up Facebook and Twitter and other popular sites, it can really strengthen your brand. It definitely increases saliency. And because of the propensity for people to share great content, you get a lot more traffic. And if you remember me talking about bodybuilding.com's content strategy, I bodybuild myself. I love the gym. I think it's great. I occasionally buy protein as a supplement. The fact that I have bodybuilding on my Facebook page, it gets me to read a lot more articles than I otherwise would. I'm pretty busy. Sometimes I forget to check websites, and despite the best intentions and despite the fact that I really do enjoy this and dedicate hours to this hobby every week, I still don't always think, man, I should really go check out bodybuilding.com today. The fact that when they have something good, they push it out to me through social media, that works. And that doesn't just work for me because I'm a marketer. It works for me because I'm interested in this. That's the key. So if you need to go back to the social media chapter and rehash or maybe see how bodybuilding.com works, go ahead. I've got a whole big example built up in there. Okay, promotion. When you first start your content marketing site, there is no other way for me to tell you this except that things are not going to be great for you. No one is going to come when you first build it. Your initial post will probably get less than 5 visitors in the first week if you do nothing, and the truth is they will probably all be you. Promotion is absolutely critical to the success of your content strategy. It's critical. You cannot just create. There used to be the saying on the web, if you build it, they will come. And that came out in the late 90s where there were basically no websites. And so if you created anything, you would instantly get tons and tons of views and tons of people and users. And then everyone had websites. And then blogs were new and fresh and interesting and very personal at first. They weren't really used for business much, but then businesses did start to use them. And it kind of was like this rehash. Okay, like if you build a good business blog, people will just come. No, not anymore. It doesn't work that way. You have to promote yourself. It's the only way you're ever going to be successful. So just a little recall to the analytics part chapter. Traffic comes to websites in the following methods. Directly, when people type your URL into their browser, through links and shares across the web, through organic search, and by you paying for it. Actually, let's go back. Let's just talk about each of these individually before we go into the different kinds of strategies that you can do. So, direct traffic is important, and as I said previously in this chapter, make sure that your URL is nice and short and not too hard. It's worth taking the time to figure out something really great. And it's hard and it's frustrating because every domain on the planet is taken. But there are great names out there. You just have to be a little bit creative. We talked about getting links and shares or through the use of having good titles. That's important. And through the use of having good content. Make sure you do remember those things. Organic search is your SEO. The more links you get, obviously, the more organic search you get. And make sure as well that your on-site stuff is optimized. Talked about that in the SEO chapter of the course. On-site is critical, and a lot of people forget. So take the time to go back, review, and fix those things up. And finally, paid traffic, and we're going to talk about that briefly in just a second when it comes to content marketing. So here are some effective strategies to get traffic to your post or to your blog. 1, guest posting. Guest posting is where you write an article specifically for some other popular blogger to put on their website. So you provide content to them for free, and in return they give you a link and a little blurb about you and your website. And you get a whole bunch of people who come through if you've written something awesome that they're interested in. You get a whole bunch of people from their website coming to yours. Aha. SEO, obviously, goes without saying, very effective. Social media presence really works a lot. Again, as long as your target market uses it and it's appropriate for your firm. Make sure that you don't abuse social media. You can just refer to the social media chapter in this course, and that'll give you all you need to know about that. I talked about using RSS feeds, as well as having an email opt-in list. Make sure, just to say it one more time, write amazing content that people want to share. Actually, I think I'm going to say it again in just a couple minutes. I have a funny feeling. you want to attract thematic links from popular blogs and sites in your niche. That's hard because when you first start up and you have very little content and you have no name and no authority and you can do nothing to help the more successful people, well, they don't really want to give you great links. So you have to take your time and build up a little bit of a base and focus on doing some professional style networking before that's going to really happen. And that's the best way to do it. Know the players in your field. So if you're writing about digital cameras and you say don't know who Darren Rose is, you may want to look him up. When I say look him up, I don't mean directly contact him. I mean figure out what he does, how he works, what his other web properties are, and over time, perhaps you can start networking with him a little bit. It's a great way. And then once you have a relationship established and he sees you as being a cool guy, odds are he and other major players, of course in this little example, would be willing to give you a great link. That's just the way it works. And as you get more popular, you will be able to attract more thematic links. Woo! And you'll have small people linking to you, which is also awesome. And finally, cross-promotion strategies with other major players. So this would mean you would have to be bigger yourself, but you can also team up with other people to help promote you. So for instance, with that Nikon digital camera coming out, if you're a major digital camera blog, you could actually team up with Nikon for doing all kinds of awesome cross-promotion stuff for their release. It would generate you more traffic. They would probably pay you some money, and things would be great. You would basically win by doing that. Just to provide one quick example of how cross-promotion could work. Now, ineffective strategies. Oh man, or less effective strategies, I guess, to be technical, since all strategies are kind of effective. They just mostly suck, a lot of them. And I talked about this in an earlier chapter in the course, how there's a propensity across the web to, because everyone else is doing it, it must be a good idea, and oh, this really worked for me, and therefore I'm going to do it. So let's look at the first one here, article writing. Article writing is, I think, one of my most favorite ones because everyone talks about how, yeah, you should just go write articles and submit them to sites like eZine and whatnot, and that's great. Or BMR was another very popular one until just a couple of weeks ago, when what happened? Tons of websites lost their search position because Google penalized that website and it de-indexed everything. Everything related to that website, or everything directly connected to that website, rather. All their articles instantly de-indexed. So all of that, quote, search power ended up being nothing. Remember, you would write articles primarily for the search engine link. And, well, okay, I guess it happens. It was one example for one website, but writing an article on eZine and then linking it to yourself, that's really not going to do much. Google is pretty smart about this. And keep in mind, they have had a long-term strategy of removing power from the marketer and putting it in the hands of the internet itself. So if you're writing articles to give yourself links back, that's not going to be particularly effective. And on that note, subscribing to most blog networks is not really effective either. It can work, it can generate you a little bit of traffic, and when you're just starting out, don't get me wrong, it can definitely help you and give you a solid boost, especially if you're actually active on those blog networks. However, DMOZ being an exception to this, as I discussed previously. However, it's not going to be nearly as effective as getting someone awesome in your niche to give you a high quality link. It's just not going to work as good. And keep in mind, marketers, personal philosophy should usually be, first we're going for the big wins. It would be so much better to, like, if I was going to write 10 articles for a new content-based website, or I could spend the same amount of time networking and getting to know people in my niche, where do you think the major players in my niche, where do you think my time would be better off? Not only am I developing real relationships that work, as soon as one of those people link to me, I am pretty much guaranteed to have so many more times, more power from the search engines coming in, not to mention traffic from their popular websites. It just doesn't make sense. I don't think it's worth fighting for 10 extra views a month. I kind of like fighting for upticks in the thousands. I think it's a better way to go. When we were talking in the PPC chapter, I gave a short little example about advertising. And I said that for content-based websites, basically none of them had ever been successful by offering pay-per-click ads. because of the conversion rate. Now that we've talked about the course a little bit more, or talked about content marketing a little more, and we've hashed it out a little bit, let me go back and touch on this. If you're a new site, just starting off, and you're looking at promoting yourself, yeah, advertising definitely not for you. Don't even think about it. If you are more established and you have a store, then certainly that statement wasn't saying, yeah, well, you certainly won't want to advertise ever. But I'm saying you won't want to advertise your blog, you'll want to advertise your store. And that's, again, just back to conversions. Go back and listen to that chapter, and you'll see exactly what the explanation for that is. One of the things people talk about all the time is commenting on other people's blogs, especially really popular blogs in your niche, is generally the way that you would want to do that. Hey, guess what? That won't get you a lot of traffic, but it will help you build relationships with the people who own that blog. And so before directly emailing them, taking the time to write some great content or some great comments on their blog, that I would recommend. That is a sound strategy. But when it comes to search engine power, because you can, usually put a little link in on your name to get people back to your blog, nah, it doesn't really work. And this is assuming that you're writing good comments, not just spammy ones like check out my blog, it's over here. We're talking solid value added notes. Link exchange when you're brand new, not going to work. And the reason, in all likelihood, and the reason being you have no relationships with anybody, and why would they link to your crappy small blog when they are a major company making millions of dollars a year? It just doesn't make sense. It's just not going to happen. Joining forums specifically to promote your blog will pretty much fail at this point, because forum administrators have caught on to people doing this. And so they look at it and say, that person does not contribute to this community at all, so no, your post automatically gets deleted, your account gets banned, and then you've got nothing. Oh, and link wheels. Oh, link wheels are great. A link wheel, okay. Basically what a link wheel is it comes with the idea of a way of gaming search engines. And you can probably see where this is going to end up. So you would have your site in the center, if you can picture a wheel, and then all around it you would have all kinds of different things connected to it. And around that circle is another circle with things connecting to that circle. Okay, that's getting a little confusing. Allow me to explain. So your site works on the principle of the better quality links coming in, the better it ranks in search engines. Okay? So if you just go to eZine articles, that's not going to do much. So people looked at this and said, okay, well, if I just make 10 eZine articles, that's not going to do much at all to my site. In fact, yeah, it's going to do basically nothing. But if I take those 10 articles and I point them to another site that I own, and then I have 10 articles pointing to another site and 10 articles pointing to another site, so I have 3 sites in tier 2, and then those sites point at my site, I've got fewer but way better quality links coming in. So I'm going to do that. And at first that worked really well, and it still does work to a degree. Based on the last analysis that I saw. But again, what do we see Google doing? Continuously destroying the power of the online marketer. So, or removing the power. So, do link wheels work right now? Yes. Will they still be effective by the time you listen to this course? Maybe. Will they be effective in 3 or 4 or 5 years as a strategy? Personally, I kind of doubt it. I could be wrong. They certainly won't be more effective, and they're not particularly effective at this point in time. And again, they take a long time to set up. Like, if you're looking at writing 30 articles and then creating 3 other sites just to link to you, like, efficiencies, it's such a small gain. I mean, if you spent the time writing better content and networking and developing your product and making your store better and getting your on-site SEO done, it would just be such better ways to spend your time than trying to do some link wheel thing that Google is going to end up penalizing in their next, well, I can't tell you that it's going to be in their next update. I don't work for them. If I did, I couldn't tell you anyway. But it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Okay. Off of the less effective stuff that doesn't work and is kind of frustrating even to think about. Tips, tricks, and tools. Woo! Invest in a great design, please. It's incredibly important. Here, I'll actually pulled up a couple of examples just to show you here. This is Smashing Magazine. Oh, isn't that nice? A nice online content marketing site. Look how easy it is to read. It's for developers, and they have tons of great tools. If actually you're looking at building a website, this is a good place to come. It's an amazing, amazing website. And it's just clean, it's easy, there's so much information. Oh, nice little cat. It just looks good, right? Now let's contrast that to Mr. Random's blog post of randomness. Oh, the design is a little different. You know, I'm sure it's incredibly high quality, but it's not. There's a big difference between this and this, is all that I'm saying. This is easy to read, nice, values added. It's pretty clear. This one, it's not the same. So design is actually very important. I would like to close those tabs. Post regular updates. Nothing is worse than, like, if you go to a blog and you decide to leave your dates on and you see, like, last post was April 2007. Not smart. Make sure that you, as we discussed, target one specific content. Make sure, as we said, post awesome content that adds plenty of value. Use a .com domain, not an xyz.blogger.com or xyz.wordpress.com. I'm aware that you can get these free sites up and running very easily and very quickly, but they drain you of authority and they're harder to put into your browser and they're not as good. It's worth investing in a .com domain. And considering that to buy a domain costs, I think it's $11.95 now, and a full year's hosting, if you don't get it on sale, is around $100 on sites like, or on companies like DreamHost and HostGator. There's really no reason to not be using a .com domain. .com, of course, being vastly better than .edu or, well, unless you're an educational institution, but unless you're nonprofit. .biz, I would not recommend you using. Probably wouldn't want to use a country local one unless you were specifically serving that country. .com is always going to reign supreme. Use WordPress.org. I talked about this in the introductory chapter to this course. WordPress is awesome. It removes your need to code. It is called a CMS, a content management system. And it just makes, for content marketers, it makes it very easy. It removes your need to do any coding at all, basically, except in the design phase. Everything is automatic, and it is just a treat to work with. And it has all these awesome plugins. So if you take the time to research great plugins, like in the SEO chapter, we talked about getting sitemaps on your website. Really important for content marketers. Well, there's an amazing plugin that just automatically builds that for you. So you don't have to manually do it and manually update your sitemap. Isn't that genius? That's part of why we use WordPress, and it's absolutely free, so why not? Make sure you're respectful at all times. That's to your audience and to the people in your niche. Don't, unless your strategy is to win traffic by being negative, or crazy, then make sure that you stay to the usual better side of just being respectful. Don't rush things. If it takes you 6 months before you start to build up any actual traffic or make more than a couple bucks, don't even worry about it. That's normal. I recommend once you get to the point where you are profitable and are making a little bit of money that you use a CDN. CDN stands for Content Distribution Network. And so basically, when we look at hosting, I personally use DreamHost. I think they're a great company. DreamHost has their servers located, I think they have 2 now. No, maybe just 1. It's located in California. So if someone is accessing one of my sites and they happen to live in Australia, that's a long way for that data to send. And so it takes a long time for it to get there. So when you use a CDN, what happens is it takes your website and it breaks it up into servers all over the world, so that someone in Melbourne, well, they'll have a server at furthest away in Perth, right? Or if I'm lucky, in Melbourne itself. And because of that, well, it just means that your content is delivered much, much faster. And that's really important to internet marketers, because a new thing, site load speed, is related to SEO. And there is all kinds of data which suggests that the quicker or the longer it takes your site to load, the higher, and it escalates very quickly, the number of people who leave or do not wait for your site to load. They just leave, and then it's game over. You lose. And finally, make sure you're authoritative and informative. That's really, really critical. People want to buy from people who know what they're talking about. Finally, let's take a look at copyblogger.com. Copyblogger is one of my favorite sites on the internet. Personally, I use them a lot, but they are a glimmering gem of example whenever we look at content marketing. So, this is their site. This is their new landing page. We're actually not going to pay much attention to it. We're going to head straight over to their blog. Now, until very recently when they redesigned everything, this was their blog site. And they've gone over several revisions as time has gone by. They've been around since 2006. And as I said earlier, for the first 3 months, they didn't have any traffic at all. And then they used a marketing strategy that was popular at the time, ebooks, or just becoming popular. It was still rare and still really worked. And they released a viral ebook on becoming viral. Ironically, that ebook went viral, and the rest was history. The site traffic escalated very quickly, and they took off. So, Copyblogger writes primarily for business people, and they primarily write about marketing and writing good copy for bloggers, right? Now, when they first started off, no ads on the site. It wasn't their strategy. Strategy was not through advertisements. It was to sell to these people related products as time went on, and to partner with really good people. And so what they've done is, if you see this banner here, our WordPress solutions, design, traffic, and conversion. So let's just click on design. We get taken to StudioPress by Copyblogger Media, which is their company. So they have a premium theme for WordPress that you can buy with all kinds of what are called child themes. All right. So this is an example of how Copyblogger, which has an absolutely massive number of subscribers, get updates. What do they do that's so key? Well, their content is amazing. Just through and through. It really is great. Okay? They, first and foremost, work on email updates. Not RSS, although that's right there. It's very visible. But email updates are the primary thing. And I think that shows. They have over 170,000 people who've subscribed. Very good. Their site is clean. It's easy to read. The design is not special, not flashy. You're here to read their content. That's the idea. And it shows. It's very easy to read. The font is big, but not huge. There's all kinds of related stuff in the sidebars. In the bottom, they have their advertisement to one of their things. That's StudioPress, as I showed you before. And then all kinds of additional value, and share this. And the comments are turned on, not off. That's important. To add more value to the readers, they've released a series of tutorials. So actually, now that you're done with this course, if you want to know more about email marketing, they have all kinds of articles about that, SEO copywriting, content marketing, woohoo! There's tons and tons that you can learn over on this website. Why were they successful? Beyond, obviously, they've done pretty much everything right. Well, they were successful because they played the game right. They wrote great content. They really worked on getting to know people in their niche. They made smart partnerships. They provide awesome, relevant solutions. And you might think, well, blogs don't make any money at all. Maybe you're sitting here wondering, what's the point? In 2010, they'd released a report. And inside that report was an interesting comment by the founder, who said that the site was geared to make just shy $3 million in 2010. And this was released late in 2010. So they probably got pretty close to that mark. In 2011, they only grew. They didn't get smaller. And in 2012, well, they're not getting smaller either. This number has increased by a lot in the last couple of years. So what we see is this trend for more and more success. Success begetting success, as we've discussed before. And an incredibly successful company that is based entirely on content marketing. That's all there is to it. And one of the best things about content marketing is if you're an individual and you're looking at creating a company like this, well, you can just get started. I mean, beyond the cost of acquiring the .com domain and the hosting for a year, it's all free from there. There is nothing else you need to buy. As time goes on, you may choose to, but you don't have to begin with. And that's the key. At the same time, if you're a company, then your only cost is really a little bit of labor and a little bit of design to get something, customized, nice, and good right from the beginning. With such low costs, and, the upsides are good. Now, maybe if you're a major corporation, you look at this and say, well, I'm not particularly interested in $3 million, although, of course, it would be great for your company. But then you have to think, this is an organically grown website. They started with no seed money. And they never took any seed money. Everything that's come in has been a result of smart partnerships and building their list. And they're at the point where they're making that 3 million, they're probably more than that a year now. So even if you look at that and think it's small, well, think of the other benefits, like engaging your audience, keeping your brand salient in their minds, making sure that when they need something, you're there. You can use it as a way of helping support. There are all kinds of things that you can do with content and with content marketing that can really be beneficial to your firm. And I would definitely encourage you to give it a try, just because it's so easy to get into that game. And again, just to recoup, if you really wanted to, come up with this would be like Justin's, I don't know, 5-step process. Maybe I'll make it. Number 1, figure out what you're going to write about. That's important. 2, get your hosting done and your .com set up. 3, write great content. Amazing content. 4, promote yourself like you wouldn't believe. And 5, develop an intelligent monetization strategy. From there, just keep going, keep promoting, keep writing amazing content. As more money comes in, you'll have more freedom to do more things and create better partnerships and get to know bigger players in your niche and do some of that cross-promotion stuff that I talked about. You can make it. When we look at sites like this that really came from nothing and became successful, the truth is it is completely replicable. And if you're so inclined, now that you've listened to this course, you could do the same. Thank you very much.